I found out I didn't have a room at midnight. After traveling for nearly 8 hours with my family, listening to everyone laugh and talk about our luxury vacation, I stood at the hotel reception desk while the manager looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. There isn't a reservation under your name." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then I looked at my parents. And the expressions on their faces told me everything. My name is Emily Carter. I was 28 years old, and until that trip, I spent my entire life believing that if I worked hard enough, loved hard enough, and stayed quiet enough, my parents would eventually treat me the same way they treated my younger brother. I was wrong. Growing up, my brother Noah was the star of the family. If Noah got a B, everyone celebrated. If I got straight A's, my parents would ask why one score wasn't higher. If Noah forgot someone's birthday, it was just Noah being Noah. If I forgot something, I got a lecture about responsibility. I became the dependable daughter. The fixer. The helper. The one everyone called when they needed something. And somehow, the more reliable I became, the more invisible I felt. The family trip was supposed to celebrate my grandfather's 85th birthday. Grandpa Henry was the one person who never made me feel overlooked. Whenever I visited, he'd ask about my life. My dreams. My work. Not because he had to. Because he genuinely cared. When my mother announced that the entire family would be taking a luxury vacation to celebrate him, everyone was excited. Including me. For months, I helped organize details. I researched activities. I coordinated schedules. I even helped compare hotels. Every time I asked about payments, my mother would smile. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. We've got everything handled." Looking back, I should have questioned that. But I trusted them. That was my mistake. The day finally arrived. 22 family members traveled together. The airport was chaotic. Everyone was taking photos. Posting updates. Laughing. Acting like the perfect family. When we arrived at the resort, the lobby looked incredible. Ocean views. Marble floors. A giant chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Everyone was impressed. One by one, room keys were handed out. My parents got theirs. My brother Noah and his girlfriend got theirs. My cousins got theirs. My aunt and uncle got theirs. Then it was my turn. The receptionist smiled politely. "Name?" "Emily Carter." She typed. Paused. Typed again. Then frowned. My stomach tightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am." I felt my chest begin to pound. "What is it?" "There isn't a reservation under your name." The entire lobby became quiet. My mother immediately stepped forward. "There must be a mistake." The receptionist checked again. Then again. Nothing. I watched her screen carefully. 21 guests. 21 rooms assigned. Except there were 22 people standing there. And I was the extra person. The forgotten person. The unwanted person. Nobody spoke. Not even my parents. Then my father cleared his throat. Maybe the hotel made an error. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. Because neither of my parents looked surprised. Embarrassed. Yes. Caught. Definitely. Surprised? Not even close. The hotel had one room left. A tiny room beside a maintenance corridor. No balcony. No ocean view. No luxury. Just a bed and a window facing a concrete wall. Everyone else enjoyed the vacation resort. I got the leftovers. That night, I cried. Not because of the room. Because I finally felt what I had spent years trying not to admit. I wasn't forgotten. I was less important. The next morning things got worse. At breakfast, I overheard my mother talking to my aunt. We had to make adjustments somewhere. My aunt looked uncomfortable. Then she noticed me standing nearby. The conversation ended immediately. My heart sank. Something wasn't right. That afternoon, my cousin Rachel knocked on my door. She looked nervous. "Can I show you something?" We sat on the beach. Then she handed me her phone. The screenshot made my blood run cold. Months earlier, my mother had sent a message in a family planning group chat. The message read, "If Emily wants her own room, she can figure it out herself." I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Rachel looked guilty. There were other messages too. More screenshots appeared. One from my father. "She's independent. She'll manage." Another from Noah. "Honestly, she'll probably never notice." I felt physically sick. My room hadn't been forgotten. It had been discussed. Planned. Approved. By my own family. That was twist number 1. The humiliation I'd felt in the lobby wasn't caused by a mistake. It was intentional. I confronted my parents that evening. My mother immediately became defensive. "You're making this bigger than it is." "Bigger than it is?" I repeated. "You had a room. You embarrassed me in front of the entire family." My father folded his arms. "We didn't think you'd react like this." I laughed bitterly. "What reaction were you expecting? Gratitude?" Nobody answered. Because there was no answer. The next day I seriously considered flying home. I packed my suitcase. I checked flight prices. I was done. Then Grandpa Henry knocked on my door. One look at his face and I knew someone had told him. He sat across from me quietly. For a few moments neither of us spoke. Then he asked softly, "Tell me everything." And I did. The screenshots. The conversations. The humiliation. The years of favoritism. The years of pretending everything was okay. When I finished, tears were running down my face. Grandpa looked heartbroken. Then he said something unexpected. "I noticed years ago." I froze. "What?" He nodded slowly. "I noticed every time your achievements were ignored." My throat tightened. "I noticed every holiday where your brother received special treatment." Tears filled my eyes again. For years, I thought nobody saw it. But he had. That was twist number 2. Someone had noticed all along. And he'd been quietly watching. The following evening was Grandpa's birthday celebration. More than 60 guests attended. Family. Friends. Business associates. Everyone gathered in a beautiful ballroom overlooking the ocean. The speeches began. People shared stories. Laughter filled the room. Then Grandpa stood up. The room immediately fell silent. Everyone respected him. Everyone listened. He thanked the guests. Thanked the staff. Then his voice changed. "I have something important to say." My stomach tightened. My parents exchanged nervous looks. Grandpa slowly scanned the room. Then he said, "A family is revealed by how it treats the person who expects nothing." Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Then he told everyone what happened. Everything. The missing room. The screenshots. The exclusion. The embarrassment. My mother's face turned pale. My father stared at the floor. Noah looked like he wanted to disappear. People around the room looked shocked. Some looked angry. Others looked ashamed. Then Grandpa delivered the words that nobody forgot. "You didn't forget her. You discounted her." The room went completely silent. You could hear glasses being set down. Nobody defended my parents. Nobody. Because the truth was obvious. For years, they had relied on me. Expected things from me. Taken me for granted. And eventually they stopped seeing me as a daughter. They saw me as a convenience. The fallout was immediate. Relatives started talking. Stories surfaced. Apparently many family members had noticed the favoritism. They just never realized how bad it had become. The biggest surprise came afterward. A week later, Noah called me. For the first time in our lives, he apologized. A real apology. Not a forced one. Not an excuse. He admitted he had benefited from being the favorite for years. And he hated himself for staying silent. It didn't erase the pain. But it mattered. As for my parents, the consequences lasted much longer. Family relationships became strained. Trust disappeared. People stopped automatically taking their side. For the first time, they had to face the reality of how they treated me. Months later, my mother cried during an apology. My father admitted he had failed me. Neither excuse changed the past. But hearing the truth mattered. Today, my relationship with them exists. Carefully. Cautiously. Very differently than before. But every time I think about that trip, I remember standing in that hotel lobby. Holding my suitcase. Watching everyone receive room keys while I stood there forgotten. Or so I thought. The truth was much worse. I wasn't forgotten. I was deliberately left out. And the people who did it believed nobody would ever notice. What they never expected was that my grandfather had been paying attention the entire time. Because while everyone else looked at the loudest people in the room, he noticed the quiet daughter who spent years carrying the family without recognition. My parents forgot to book me a room on our family trip. At least that's the story they told everyone. The truth? They remembered me perfectly. And my grandfather made sure nobody ever forgot that.